Hi crafters, welcome to the Roost. Today I'm just going to actually work through some of the watercoloring on the Sara Thing paper pumpkin kit. Now I hosted a paper pumpkin birthday party and had my girls bring their paper pumpkin kits and we worked on these. I wasn't really teaching anything, we just kind of got together to enjoy our paper pumpkin kits. And I noticed some of the girls were having trouble with the watercoloring. And I actually thought this was a really simple stamp set, so maybe it was partly my fault because I took it as being really easy. The one that they had the most trouble with was the one with the like flowers across the corner. I don't know, I mean there were a few things that I noticed, you know, like some of the color maybe crossed into the part where it wasn't supposed to if you got it down here, but I guess I'm not as fussy, but a couple of the gals are really precise, and they had more trouble with the watercoloring. Now, maybe watercoloring in general is something that is not as precise, so if you're a real precise card maker, it might be a little bit more irritating to you because it isn't. Now, I found it best to just kind of oh gosh, what's the word for it? I'm not being real precise. Now do try not to get over the lines on the outside edges, but on the edges that crossed over into another color, I didn't worry too much about it. And you can kind of scribble right over the you know, the colors where they meet. It's kind of a don't color in the lines, I guess would be my way of saying it. And also, watercoloring isn't a real bright color. It is a more muted, so don't expect like really deep, vibrant colors from watercoloring. One thing I did notice, some of the girls were, you know, they wanted really deep, vibrant colors, so they were like coloring as hard as they could and getting just an awful lot of lead onto the paper. And I'll kind of show you what happens when you do that. It actually, it's like there's too much material on the paper, and when you start moving it around with the water, it tends to get actually like clumpy. Kind of reminds me of like clay, you know, as if you were working with clay on the paper. So I'm not saying that you need a light hand with the coloring, because I do want, you know, more vibrant, but don't make it solid. Because of the tooth on the paper, you know, the roughness, it's not going to when you're coloring, it's not going to fill in all those cracks. Now also, if you want to mix colors, you know, go ahead, if you want like more of the green look, go ahead and go over with both colors where they meet to give it the you know, more of the orangey look in here and the green look in here. And I did find that if I went so that I colored one direction and then I went and colored back the other direction, but not super hard, that it would fill in the dips in the tooth of the paper. Now, one thing, if you watched Sarah's video, you'll notice that she was wiping off her water so that she didn't have too much water, or she'd go like this. It's a good thing, especially to start. And then if you you can be really careful and try to stay in the lines, or you can just kind of go over it all. But the more you spread the paper over the, the color around, even on the shiny part, it will tend to pick up and stay there on your background piece. So if you want to be really careful and just keep your color in the petals, or whatever you want to call these diamonds. Now if you'll see here, I'll take this one where I put all this extra color, and when you get it wet, you can see how it actually creates like almost like a mud, because you've got all that extra lead from your pencil, I guess is what I would call it. So I think you're going to want to not get an over amount, and then when you get the all that color in between your where you want it, it's harder to remove it afterwards. But if you want it vibrant, so you'll notice how much darker it is there. If you really want the vibrant look, you're just going to have to play with some of that extra material to move it around so that it's even. You can do it. You know, one of the fun things with watercolor is that there's so many different looks that you can get just by playing with it. So don't despair if it doesn't look quite the way your neighbor's does, because you have a little bit different hand to your coloring. And if you want it to look like your neighbors, watch what they're doing. You know, they might just be putting on less color to play with, or they're maybe spreading it around a little bit differently than you are, maybe with more of a swirl. Oh, it looks like I totally missed one here. You do have to color them though, at least a little bit. Now the other thing that I found when I was working with this is that if I worked like from all three corners in and kept cleaning my brush, it does give you a nicer blend of colors so that it doesn't get muddy. You know, and then if you want more orange, you can go ahead and pull more red into the yellow. So then you get more of an orangey color. Now I kind of like it if you don't see, oh, I'm not sure what to call it, but I want the color more even so that you're not seeing the coloration lines. And that you just got to play with the water a little bit to get. And then if you put water on your brush will actually kind of suck up the extra color from these lines, and then just keep wiping it off. So you can just kind of run between your petals here to get any extra off. And then when it's dry, you can go ahead and give it a good rub with your paper towel. One other thing that you need to be careful of that I found out is this the embossed part, you know, that creates these lines. Be sure that you're not stamping on it when you stamp your words, because the ink will not stick on that. Now the heart one is basically the same, and you know, go ahead and have fun with these. If you have the full set of watercolor marker or of watercolor pencils, and you want to make your heart, you know, a totally green heart if you want, go ahead and play with those colors, because it doesn't have to be just these two colors that are here. But for this, again, you know, don't if you're really into coloring slowly on each one and you enjoy that, go ahead. But to get the watercolor effect, you don't really need to. And then here's, like I said, I went back the other direction, but still fairly lightly, kind of with the flat edge of my pencil, and go back over it. And then in the middle, you're going to mix both colors. So then when you go back over here, you can kind of mix them so that you get a little bit of each in the middle ground where they meet. And now with this being Melon Mambo and Razzleberry, there really isn't a sharp difference between them. So when you start mixing them, it's going to be very subtle. So don't expect it to be a major, you know, change between the colors. And also, as you're working it, it's not going to be perfect right away. So don't despair if you look at it and it doesn't look like the sample, you know. See, if you want it lighter, you can go back and use your your brush kind of like a sponge to soak up the extra color. You can keep moving it around. You can add a little bit more. Like I don't like the these lines in here, so just go ahead and keep smooshing it around. This one is way darker than the others, so I'm going to pull more color off of there. If you want it darker, you can add more color. You can also let this dry and then go ahead and pencil on some more color if you want it darker, and then go through the whole process again. It's better to start with less water and then add more, just because when the paper gets too wet, it gets kind of mushy. Now, you'll notice there is not a whole lot of variation between these. It's kind of all mixed. So if you wanted to get a little bit more of the melon mambo, you know, on the top, and this is still a little bit wet, so it's probably not a good, but I can go ahead and add a little bit more here. Now this is actually my favorite one because I like things that are really random. So in this one, you're just going to put a random splash of color across. We're going to have the green in the middle where the two meet, because of course if you mix the yellow and the blue you'll end up with green. And then we're just going to mix the two together and then go back and start from your outside edge again and down in. And really that's all it takes. It's just a quick swishing of the pencil and a quick swishing of the brush. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Now I heard that the replacement pack of these sold out in a day. The refill kits, I'm sorry. So it must mean that all of you loved this set. I'm hoping that next month's is another great set with cards like this that everybody can love. If you want to sign up, subscribe to Paper Pumpkin, I would be honored if you choose me as your demonstrator. And if you live locally in the area, I am going to try to get together at least quarterly for our Paper Pumpkin group, just to meet and work on our cards together, kind of a social hour. So go ahead and hop on over to my blog and check it out, and hope you try out Paper Pumpkin if you haven't already. And if you are a subscriber, I hope you keep subscribing, and remember to have a lot of fun with this. That's what it's meant for. Have fun and then share that fun by giving your cards to people to brighten their day. Have a great day, and thanks for stopping.